To be totally honest with everyone watching this video, this package means a lot to me. And I'll tell you why as I'm opening it up, so I don't have to go backwards and do this again. So what is in this box, you already know. It's brake parts from Kink. It is their entire brake part lineup, basically. And where this came from is that a guy named Matt at Kink reached out to me. He's the one who sent me the parts that I needed when I built my new bike, the springs and caps for their brakes. He reached out to me and simply wanted my opinion on their entire brake setup. It seemed like he felt genuinely proud of what their brake lineup is and the different parts in it, and he just wanted to hear what I thought about it. So, of course, naturally, I said yes. Of course I would do that. And it makes me happy and genuinely feel humbled at the fact that someone at a company like Matt, who's like the brand manager at Kink, would want to hear my thoughts on their brake stuff. It just, I don't know, makes me happy. So on top here, we've got some Kink stickers, promo for new Dan Collar signature frame. We've got a poster with some bikes on it. Hopefully you guys can see that on the top down. I hope it's going. Yes, it is going. So we've got all this, and we've got a book of their 2022 completes, which I actually did a whole video going over all of their completes just because they happened to put out videos about all of them. I thought it'd be a good time to talk about it. I'm going to do the same with Sundays. But they're all in here, all the geometry, everything that you could want is in here. And let's just take everything out of the box before we get crazy with it. Trash, trash, trash. I hope that's trash. Yes. Wow. Brake cables on brake cables. This is actually put in here very thoughtfully, it seems. I'm sorry if I'm just taking it all out at once and making it not as thoughtful. And now we have everything out of the box. So first, let's start with the very base level of brake components. And we'll open up the bag containing the brakes themselves. These are the Kink Desist Brakes. This is a whole brake kit here. So what you'll see is that we have the brakes themselves as well as the lever, brake pads, Kink Desist Brakes here with the restrain lever. We also have a linear cable. I'm assuming this is a linear cable. Brake cable. And the back. Linear cable, yes. And then we've got the straddle cable hanger piece. Let's just pull this out of the bag. We got to make sure we keep all of this together. Kink sticker. If you see me at Ray's ever, ask me for stickers and I'll give you some. So here's what's inside the bag. We've got the cable pieces that go into the brake arms. Show you right here. They go into the arms like that. You may have seen my video putting my bike together where I talked about my custom setup that I did with these. Then we've got the cable hanger, straddle cable replacement, what you could call it. And we'll show you how this goes into here. You can see that it is designed to go in there just like that. And that is what comes with this whole brake kit. So you can put on a straight cable setup with this whole cable kit. You've got everything that you need. And you've seen me install the Kink brakes, as I just said. So you can watch the video of building my new bike. Oh, there's also a cable end in here. So you can watch me building my new BMX bike in that video and see that part of things. So next up, let's talk about gyro stuff, because gyros are a thing and people use them. There's also the Kink Gyro in here, which is called the Aluminum Smooth Nylon Bushing Low Stack Machined. It's the Myriad Gyro. I didn't see it right away. I'm sorry. Ooh, we don't even have to cut anything, risk scratching up this gyro. I'll be honest with you guys, I'm going to build up a dedicated trails bike, and I was gonna just do a straight cable setup on it, but because they sent me this, I may just make a setup using their gyro. So this is Kink's gyro. It has recessed areas here for the lower cables to go in. The upper cables can go into the spherical areas here. No set screws present on this one. It's got a nice look to it on the top here, how everything is clean and goes together, which makes me wonder, okay, so it's got a C-clamp on the bottom and that's how it's attached. And if you guys don't care about brakes and the nuances of brakes, can't help you with this video, because that is everything that this video is about. You know how particular I am about my brakes, so I'm looking at them and looking at all of this stuff through that lens. So here we have Kink's gyro, and we might as well look at gyro cables at this point. So this is the lower gyro cable from Kink. Let's open up the box, and what we've got here is a London mod already built in. I don't know that it's called the London mod from Kink, but it's made to go onto your cable guide on the center of your frame. And as you can see, there's 3 different options here for where you actually put your ends of your cables, and we'll show you that this is designed to just go directly into here. So no matter which one you have and which one you choose, you can put this cable piece into the cable guide, whatever you want to call it, that actually goes on the brake. The top, very simple. Grab our gyro again. This top part right here is what would go into the end of your gyro. Sits in there perfectly. So already you're seeing how much thought has went into this setup. It's all built in. Everything is here to make it as easy as possible, I'm assuming. I don't know what their mindset was as they were doing this, but I'm assuming it's all to make it as easy as possible. What do we have here? These are the upper gyro cables. So let's take a look at the upper gyro cables. And I also want to add in here that when Matt reached out to me, he said that he wasn't like, basically, you don't have to make a video about these or anything. I just want to hear your thoughts. That is my main concern. So in this packaging, we've got the upper gyro cable. You can see that it's already got, whoa, that's interesting, but it's already got this adapter, which would go into the brake lever, and I'll show that here in a second. But then you can see that these dual cables go to a single end here, much differently than like Odyssey's do, where it's going into a junction and then a single part's coming out. That's very interesting. Also in this packaging, we've got 2 different types of barrel adjusters. We've got the shorter kind with the bigger twist areas and the longer kind with the smaller twist areas, which would normally go on your cable guide, but you can use this on your gyro because it's the same threads. So this is part of why all of this was sent over at the same time, because you can see how these things go together. So let's actually install the upper cables once. So as you can see, it has this piece on here that we showed already. This has to go into the lever. If we take a look at it, it can't have both sides in it at the same time because that just doesn't work. So what we have to do here is that we have to make sure that the adapter side with the piece sticking out goes into the lever first so that it goes up into the slot first, then comes around. You kind of got to jiggle it a little, but as you can see, then it slides right into the lever. It works. What we do is we lose any adjustment we might have here, but if you've seen my upper gyro cable setup, you know that I don't have that adjustment anyways, because the piece I use screws the barrel adjuster all the way into the lever and is tight. So that isn't an issue for my setup. Maybe a lot of other people who use dual cables don't have it as well, because you have to have this adapter, and it's hard to make an adjustment with 2 pieces and an adapter here. So all in all, this part, it makes sense once you figure it out, and the lever itself is very simple. There's not a lot to it. It's just a lever here. But when we take a look There's not a lot of flex here at all. There's no excess on this lever. It is what it needs to be, and that's it. It's made for your cable to just go straight into it. There's no adjustment here. It looks like if you needed to put a barrel adjuster in here, you might be able to force one in there. I wouldn't do it. It seems a little funky and there's nothing for it to tighten into. But either way, very minimal, making it light and simple, which simple can be good. And when it works, when simple works, simple is good. Upper cable seats perfectly into the gyro like so. Now what it looks like is actually that there were 2 sets of upper gyro cables included here. I'm assuming they're exactly the same. Yes. So 2 sets of the exact same upper gyro cables. So just thank you. We've got a gyro plate. Show you the packaging. It's all very consistent packaging. It's one thing with Kink is that their branding is very consistent. So here is the gyro plate. Is there any information about it? Just matte black. So it doesn't say if it's a certain type of aluminum or anything like that. You can tell it's very low profile and thin, which without actually running it yet, I can't say if it has any type of flex or anything. I have had gyro plates in the past which did have flex. So I can't say that this one will or will not have that until I use it, but I will say that that has been an issue, but it seems sturdy. I don't want to say it feels sturdy because I can't put this under the same force that you would under riding conditions. So there's the gyro plate, which is what you would need under your stem and above your gyro in order to put your upper cables into. And actually, once we're all the way done opening these things, we'll put together the gyro setup, just not on the bike. So this next part is a part that I was very curious about while I was building my new bike. And I guess we could say, just show you, Desist dual cable kit. This is really interesting, and this is where the thoughtfulness is very evident in what Kink has done with their brake setup. Didn't even have to do that. So let's open this up. Very smart that they sealed it fully because there's tiny little C-clips in there. And what you're gonna see with this is that this piece and this piece are very similar, except for what this one has is a hole straight through it with a NARP that pushes on it from the side. Cable goes through it, then you tighten that NARP down and it's tight against it. And this is something I was very interested in whenever I was getting my new bike set up, because I thought that this is what I would need in order to get the setup going, but there weren't any available and I didn't want to wait. Basically, it's good to know that this exists and is an option for people who run dual lower cables that don't have or don't want to do this. They want to have very specific length on their cables or make their own cables for that matter. And that's one reason why I haven't gone with something like the lower cables that we showed previously, is because when you break them, if you don't have a way to replace them or you don't have extras there, you're kind of just screwed for the day. And some people don't mind about that, and that's why these exist, because some people might just not care, like, well, I got to get new cables before I ride again. But I'm the kind of person that if I break a cable in the middle of my session, I'm going to fix it and keep riding, and that's why I designed my setup the way I did. So that is all of the one category that was in the box. Let's take a look at this other side here. So this is the Linear DX cable. And what was cool about this one is that you can see, like, it's a normal linear cable. It has these plastic ends on it that aren't crimped, because crimping your cable ends can cause friction. Just recently learned that. But what's cool about this is it has this brass fitting on the end, which goes into your or onto your cable end and allows it to rotate. So you're having rotation here on this side, and then whenever you take your cable hanger here, as well as the NARP that is used for it, your cable goes through the cable hanger like so. NARP goes here, which means that when this tightens onto the NARP, there's an allowance of rotation on this part as well as on this part in here, so your inner cable is never bound up. It can constantly move and rotate if it needs to, which is something that requires thoughtfulness to make happen, which is something that I appreciate from Kink in all of this. I hope that this video is useful for you, Matt, and this is kind of what you're hoping for in getting my thoughts on these things. I'm giving my genuine thoughts. Even the packaging is like thoughtful. They put stuff around the cables so they can't just come loose and get wacky. So what's this one? Linear one-piece cable. So this one is a little bit different here. So this is like the gyro cable that we showed earlier with the 3 ends on it, except cable strap is tough. That is not going to come loose on you. So what you can see if you look closely here is that there's 3 ends on this piece as well, exactly the same way as that there were 3 ends on this lower gyro cable, and how they go into the brakes is exactly the same, except it's a straight cable setup. You've got everything that you need here with this rotating brass piece on the end of your cable at the top, as well as a rotation on the bottom because it's just a ball end there with the straddle cable or cable hanger part going on to the inner. You've got the barrel adjuster, which is actually an extra long barrel adjuster that goes as your cable guide or into your cable guide. And you've got the 3 ends on there so you can select which one you need for your cable. It seems to be that Kink's brake setup is like eliminating variables for people to have to worry about things on their setup. It's designed very thoughtfully, and it's designed for the most ease of use from what I'm gathering. Obviously I didn't design it, so I can't say that for sure. We've got one last thing here, and this says Linear DX cable. Is that what this one is? Linear D. Okay, so there was a second Linear DX cable. So this was a little awkward to set up not on a bike, but here we have a complete Kink BMX dual gyro cable setup. And in all honesty, in my honest thoughts in reaction to doing this is just that it's easy to do. These parts just go onto your bike. You just pop them into the slots that they need to be popped into. The only thinking that you really have to do is about where things should go and which one of these end pieces you might actually need. And with that, that's it. It's so simple to set up that it's just, there's not much to it to think about other than like what I already said. And in taking a closer look here, and you can see how like granular I have to get here to see this difference. You can see here that one of these spherical pieces, I'm hoping that I can zoom in on this, is longer than the other. And naturally, when you have a cable inner and housing that are 2 different lengths that are put together, you're going to run into some of this issue. I mean, if you look at this right now, you can see how much shorter the shorter housing is than the longer. So there's a good 2.5, 3 inches here that they're compensating for, and it's understandable that it might not be 100% perfect, and that is going to adjust out guaranteed. So it's not something that you're really going to have to worry about, and they get it a lot. They get it very, very close here with these. It's something that I'm impressed to see, and it just shows more thought that goes into this, because with my cable setup and me putting a custom one of these pieces and putting the barrel adjuster in there, you end up, whenever you use stock cables that have ends on them, with an inner that is like a 1/2 centimeter longer than the other side, and you have to adjust that out. And that's another reason why I make my own custom cables. And to see that all of these things are thought through, and that this is a very well thought out and well put together setup, is just cool. And it makes me even more proud that Matt reached out and wanted my thoughts on all of this. And from using my experience as a gauge, I would say that this all works together very, very well. And it's cool to see a single brake setup that works together so well with a single or a straight cable setup, or a dual gyro cable setup, or a dual gyro cable setup that they make custom, or the one that you make with your own ends on it because they have their own cable end pieces with NARPs in them. It's just very well put together, and I appreciate Matt and Kink for sending this to me to show you guys. They didn't send it to me to show you, but I'm doing that. And what I would say here is that if you've seen my brake cable set up and you're like, wow, that is way too complicated, I never want to do that, it's not necessary, maybe take a look at something like this where you buy the setup and everything is plug and play and it just works together. If you're the kind of person that wants to just put your brakes on, slide everything in the slots, put it together and be done with it, something like this is the route to go. But if you're the kind of person that wants to tinker with it and make it perfect and make them feel as good as they can and have something that is purely yours, then maybe a custom cable setup like the one that I have, but you make your own tweaks and do whatever with it, is the route that you go. But ultimately, my thoughts are that Kink's full brake system works very well together, is very well thought out. And I think that anyone who feels that they don't want to get crazy with their brakes and just wants to have brakes could have something like this set up very well. And if you really, really don't want to get crazy and you want to mix and match some things, you can get the Odyssey Springfield brakes, which pieces like these will work with. And then you won't have to worry about any kind of spring adjustment or anything like that. And your brakes will just be plug and play on every single aspect of them. That could be pretty cool. And real quick, guys, let me know in the comments down below if you want me to take this whole Kink dual gyro cable setup, gyro, brakes, and all, and install them on the bike that I'm going to be building up to be a trails-specific bike for this coming trail season in 2022. Let me know in the comments. On that note, thank you again to Kink. Thank you for watching this. Thank you, Matt. And I hope you guys enjoyed it and got some type of use out of it. Enough that if you're new here or you haven't yet, you'll hit the subscribe button down below so we can see you tomorrow for another video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.